that we are long past that date anyway. A budget is a country's financial blueprint guiding everything from infrastructure development to debt management. Yet, President Tinubu's late submission of that appropriation bill on December 18, 2024, far beyond the legally mandated September 30 deadline, has already disrupted fiscal planning. Even more alarming is the fact that the budget is based on unrealistic assumptions. The projected inflation rate of 15%, while the actual rate stood at 34.6 in November 2024. An oil production estimate of 2.06 million barrels per day, despite Nigeria struggling to hit 1.5 million barrels per day, and an exchange rate of assumption of 1,500 to $1, when forecasts suggest that the exchange rate of the naira may hit 1,804 naira per dollar by 2025. And then there's the issue of the tax reform bills, which critics argued that this will stifle economic growth rather than encourage investment. Now, eventually, the Nigeria Governors Forum and the Northern Nigeria Governors Forum would seem to have accepted the proposals by the federal government. But indeed, there is this growing concern that these bills could worsen financial strain on businesses and individuals. Add to that, the telecom tariff hike, with the Nigerian Labour Congress now saying, well, by the 1st of March, is going to call out Nigerian workers on strike. And then CBN has just introduced new ATM withdrawal charges, 100 naira per 20,000 naira for withdrawals from other banks' ATMs, and a staggering 500 naira per 20,000 naira withdrawal at malls and eateries. These policies add to the financial burden of everyday Nigerians. Issues that we have to deal with. And it's the common Nigerian who is already struggling to survive. To help us unpack this is Chief Marcel Okeke, former chief economist at Zenith Bank. Chief Marcel Okeke, welcome to the program.
Well, Dr. Bani, thank you for having me on this program today.
Okay, before... I'm quite excited. Yes, thank you for joining us. Before we start our conversation, I would like to use this opportunity to pay a special tribute to a towering figure, a major figure in Nigerian history, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, who passed on yesterday in his Lagos home at the age of 96. Now, Ayo Adebanjo's journey began in journalism before he transitioned into law and before he built a career over the years in politics. He was a relentless advocate for justice, democracy, and good governance. Through the years, he never wavered in speaking truth to power. His voice rang through as a beacon of hope, calling out successive governments for failing the people and consistently championing the cause of a better Nigeria. Chief Adebanjo was an Awoist, and he believed in the ideals of true federalism and justice and fairness and equality to all Nigerians. One description stands out, simply that he was firmly uncompromising in doing what he considered to be right. Nigerians have an obligation to continue this tradition of holding our leaders accountable, just as Chief Pa Ayo Adebanjo did for decades. Nigerians owe him the duty of following his example of courage, patriotism, and commitment to the progress of Nigeria. His legacy reminds us that the fight for a just and prosperous Nigeria is a bounden duty for every citizen in this environment. And we also owe him a duty to continue to discuss and ask those relevant questions on matters that concern the betterment of our dear country, particularly of accountability and good governance. He will be sorely missed by everyone who was privileged to have encountered him May the soul of Pa Ayo Adebanjo rest in peace. Now, very quickly, Chief Marcelo Keke, let's start with that your piece, which you wrote titled "A Leap in the Dark for Nigeria 2025 Economy," where you analyze the unrealistic projections in the 2025 budget. Now, why do you call the budget a leap in the dark?
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. That gives me an opportunity to restate and elaborate more on all I have said in my article, or one of my articles in recent time. Well, it's a leap in the dark because, like you said during the preambles, a lot of the assumptions, that form the foundation of the budget are extremely unrealistic. And like I also wrote recently, there are so many issues cropping up now, from outside Nigeria that are so likely to impact on this economy, not only within this year, but going forward. But specifically, how does one understand the issue of the current level of inflation as at end December 2024, standing at 34.8%, and the government assuming in the budget for 2025 that the level of inflation all through 2025 will be 15%. In other words, coming down by more than half. That would be magic. That would be magic. And the economies don't run as magic. There must be a connection. What will convince anyone to show that the level of inflation will drop from 34.8% to 15% as we move into 2025? Nothing will convince anybody. So that assumption, is unjustifiable. There's no way it can be justified. Another one is the issue of volume of oil to be produced within the year. In the past couple of years, Nigeria has been struggling to meet its OPEC quota allocation of about 1.5 million barrels per day. It's only maybe last week that government officials started clapping for themselves that Nigeria has hit that target. For several years now, Nigeria has been producing at 1 million, slightly above 1 million barrels per day. Okay? But this year, what is assumed in the budget is 2.06 millions. 2.06 million barrels per day. And they begin to wonder how we now jump from below 1.5 million barrels to over 2 million barrels per day. Given what we know, the circumstances of oil business in Nigeria, the insecurity we are talking about, the oil theft phenomenon, the organized sabotage against the oil exploration and production companies and their activities, asset vandalism, and so on and so forth. So given all this, and no reasonable investment, on new oil discoveries, huge oil discoveries in recent time, when you put all this together, you then begin to wonder the magic that government will put in place, to push us from below 1.5 million barrels per day to over 2 million barrels per day. Again, that is unrealistic. Okay? Now you look at the exchange rate. What is being assumed in the budget is 1,400. Okay? And everyone knows that since May 2023, the government has been doing everything to stabilize and break down the exchange rate of the naira. At a point, we had almost 2,000 naira to $1. Okay? And the government has been deploying everything in its arsenal to bring the thing lower. As we speak now, we're in the range of 1,700 and 1,600. So you begin to wonder what will happen to now break this to 1,400, all through this year. Yeah? Knowing fully well that the challenge of the Nigerian economy is supply side when it comes to foreign exchange. How do you generate the dollar, to supply in the market? Because when like the market is said to have been left to market forces, that the forces of demand and supply, you have so much demand as against so little supply. So how will government supply, the needed dollar in the market to stabilize and strengthen the naira as it claims in the budget? Okay, and on and on and on. Any of those assumed figures you pick, you can see that they are realistic. So when you put all those together, you now see that the entire budget is a leap in the dark for the country as a whole. Okay, so that is why I titled my write-up. I said the Nigerian economy or 2025 budget or economy is a leap in the dark for Nigeria. And then when you put that vis-a-vis the other article and said there will be so many headwinds that will come from outside, you now see that the issue of tariff war is about to take off globally. Nigeria will be affected. The issue of deportation of illegal immigrants.
Before we talk about the headwinds, which was the focus of another article that you wrote, I'm sure you are. The National Assembly has already passed this budget. It was originally 40-something, and then it was increased 49.7 trillion originally, and then there was an addition of 36.6, taking it to 54.9 trillion. And then the National Assembly considers it an unprecedented leap, with a very positive attitude towards it, even if the total expenditure, the recurrent is so high, almost, more than what you have in terms of capital expenditure. Hello?
Yes, we now, the budget was raised, from an initial level of
49.7
for 7.9 trillion to now almost 55 trillion. 55 trillion. Okay, on paper, that is great. But the truth is that if you deflate it by the exchange rate we are talking about and inflation, you now see that there's nothing to cheer about. Okay, and then when you consider the level of inflation, when you consider the other indicators that we discussed earlier on that will be playing out within the economy, you see that the huge in quotes, does not amount to much. And then you begin to wonder when you come to the approval of the budget, okay? Like you rightly mentioned earlier on, the budget, according to Financial Responsibility Act, was supposed to have been presented latest September 30 last year. But this one was presented to the National Assembly 2 weeks to the end of 2024, specifically on the 18th of December, okay? So all those things thoroughly violated, the Fiscal Responsibility Act. But we are not there anyway. So from all indications, you can now see that the National Assembly rushed, if you like, or did whatever to work from answer to question by approving the budget. Even when the president had to go back, was it a week or two ago, to submit the additional budget, which again, if you look at it, is an unprecedented measure or step. And yet, the National Assembly, I don't know whether to say we are stampeded or or whatever they did as magicians have now come out to say that everything is now approved and move the budget as proposed by the president from 54 point something to now almost 55 trillion. Good and fine. But the truth is that when you look at the components of the budget and the interest of each one of them that will now be reflected in the budget, you see that the whole thing will turn out to be a ritual. So it's not a question of what it is in it for the people, given what we have been going through. And then you look at the fact that the budget will now be implemented retroactively, because from what we are hearing, they say it will be signed and we take retroactive effect from January 1. From January 1, okay? So that again is an unprecedented step, okay? Because we are told that the 2024 budget was being rolled over to this year. That again is a wrong step to take, because the assumption of the basis for the formation or formulation of 2024 budget are no longer the same thing this year. And you say you are rolling over. Now they want to roll back the budget. Even as we speak, there's no information to the effect that the president has accepted the budget approved by the National Assembly. Okay, so you see everything looks confused all over the place. Everything looks confused all over the place. And so for the common man, what is in it for us at this point in time is all confusion. So I don't know where we are going.
But you see, the government, the federal government is saying that this budget 2025, which you are very sure, and all of us are, can be almost certain that the president is going to give his assent to it, is to address Nigeria's current challenges: inflation, unemployment, weak infrastructure. Those are, some of the objectives. And don't you think that those are realistic issues that the government must immediately address? And about, 15% inflation, there's been some talk about rebasing. Do you think that rebasing is just an artificial voodoo economics kind of measure that's about to be taken?
Let me start from this rebasing of a thing. You have said it all. Is an artificial thing, to work from non-answer back to question, okay? And that is why, while making the budget, somebody at his or her desk will assume that there will be magic to bring down the inflation level from that 4.8% as at end December to be at 15, meaning that it's not unlikely. It is not unlikely that when they finish the rebasing they are doing, you will now see us parading such figure. If not exactly 15%, something close to that, so that the government will start clapping for itself. You understand that they have rebased the economy and achieved that level of inflation, because they said they're also going to rebase not only the GDP but also the consumer price index, which measures inflation. Okay, so those things are aimed at achieving what the government wants to achieve in terms of figures. But you know that the economy is not necessarily about figures. It's about the well-being of the people. It's about the impact on the people. And you and I know that rather than anything improving, the well-being of the people have been going down. There's hunger in the land. There's anger in the land. Are all those things being handled? Let me also come to the issue of infrastructure. You and I have been here in this economy for how long now? Last year, 2 years ago, this year, where is the infrastructure that is always flaunted as the reason, for, in quotes, the humongous budget? Where is the infrastructure? And let me say this, talking about infrastructure, one can only see such figures or provisions for them as conduits, for some vested interest to take what they want to take. Because the truth is that the issue of infrastructural gap in Nigeria, rather than improving, keeps deteriorating. Okay? Is there any year or is there any government in power that has not been telling us about this infrastructure and why they are allocating so much to infrastructure development? And at the end of the day, you don't see any improvement. Whether you look at it in Nigeria intertemporally or you look at it as at the moment, meaning that if you compare 7 years ago and look at it today, what we have to show. Okay? And let me also say this. Why must the government embark on such grandiose projects that we thought out to be elephant projects, like the one we are hearing about coastline from Lagos to Calabar? Who is imposing those projects on us? When the existing road network, much of it is almost impassable. Okay? If we are talking about infrastructure, should we not refurbish what we have and make them durable and useful and usable to the people, rather than embarking on new projects, okay, that are not likely to be completed? And this budget, you know, is an annual thing. So every year we go through this ritual, okay, with the naira that is almost dead entirely. Okay, so we'll be hearing trillions of naira. So as far as I'm concerned, the budget is not meant to solve any of these problems they are parading, you know, but it's a way of going through the same song so that the ritual, you know, keeps coming on and on. Thank you.
Okay, very quickly. Part of the conversation about this budget 2025 is about debt service, debt burden, which keeps rising and which is likely to rise more. Now, how do we balance debt management with economic stability and productivity, perhaps?
Well, the government has gone haywire in terms of, you know, accumulation of debt. Because as I speak, I must tell you the truth, I have no handle on the issue of the varieties of debt, this time that the government is incurring. If you talk about government relationship with the IMF, government is somewhere now discussing to raise a loan for IMF. If you talk about the World Bank, government is discussing to raise loan from the World Bank. If you talk about African Development Bank, the same thing. If you talk about AfriBank, the same thing. If you go to the capital market, government is raising loan, and so on and so forth. You understand? So Nigeria is already over-leveraged in terms of, you know, how much it can raise as loan and balance this out the way you are saying. Okay? So that is why even the celebration of the so-called improved or increasing revenue does not necessarily follow. You know, what is increasing when you are indebted to the tune of, you know, trillions like that? Okay, so again, it's an illusion. It's an illusion that the economy is doing well. You cannot claim to be doing well or getting better when you are everywhere chasing loans from all over the world. You know, no matter the conditionalities.
Isn't part of the problem what you referred to earlier about headwinds, particularly at a time that you have within the global space a Donald Trump, President of the United States, who will go to WTO and tell OPEC members to reduce oil prices and tell central banks across the world to reduce interest rates, who will say that he's imposing tariffs on every import into the United States, and so on and so forth. Even Nigerians are being deported or will be deported from the United States. The visa regime is likely to change and all of that. Now, how deeply is Nigeria affected by these headwinds, these external headwinds? Because the fault may not be only domestic.
Yes. Thank you for, you know, referring to that, my article. The truth is that most of the things you have mentioned are beyond our purview. It's not something the Nigerian government can do anything to stop or to manage or to control. Because the world, illegal immigrants that will be deported, there's nothing the government, for example, can do to reduce the number or to find a way to normalize or formalize their stay in the US. Okay, so that certainly is going to happen, but it's now a matter of when, within this year or even next year. But the man in the driver's seat in the US had decided to do so, and he has started with some other countries. And now we talk about tariff war. Tariff war is a case of when the big elephants are fighting, you know, the grass will be suffering, you know, because if US begin to impose tariff against China, against Mexico, against Canada, some of these countries are major trading partners with Nigeria. So there's no way the implication of those tariff wars will not affect Nigeria negatively, okay? And then the issue of oil production. and supply to the global market, you know. When OPEC people are forced to bring down the price of oil, you know what that means for Nigeria? Because so much is expected to come from our oil, you know, which we are now parading to have increased our production volume. So should the price go down, following Trump pronouncement and actions and activities, you know, in the coming months, where is Nigeria in all of this? So it has implications, you know, as a monoproduct economy, more or less, and largely import-dependent economy. So when you connect all these dots, you can now see that it's really a leap in the dark that we are going into 2025 and beyond. Thank you.
Okay, you wrote another piece referring to AfriInvest, West Africa, in its monthly update for 2025, saying that Nigeria is stuck in progress illusion. Now, that's not what the Nigerian government thinks. That's not what the CBN thinks. The CBN has introduced a number of monetary policies that even the international bodies like IMF and World Bank have had cause to praise. Treasury yields have gone up. They've been doing well. You know, a lot of momentum in that direction. And, you know, this, you know, credit creation efforts being made also by the CBN. But you wrote an article in which you seem to say that you agree with AfriInvest, that there is a progress is an illusion. Now that will be very discouraging for many Nigerians. After all, fuel prices have been going up and down, up and down. Sometimes, you know, the fuel price goes down.
Dr. Abati will always relate the so-called progress to where we are coming from. Do you know we are talking about a space of 20 or 21 months, okay? By 29th of May, 2023, the price of PMS, Premium Motor Spirit, that is fuel, was at below 200 naira per liter. So within the 20 or 21 months we are talking about, it has crossed 1,000 naira, okay, per liter, and that's where we are. So if it comes down to 900 or 900 and something naira, is that to be clapped for? Have we made any progress? Whose income has gone up like that? From below 200 naira to 1,000 something? That's how you look at it realistically. That's how you look at it realistically. So what is there to clap about? Okay, then you look at the issue of inflation. Like I wrote in my article, by May 2023, it was around 22.4%. Okay, by the end of 2024, it was 34.8%. Okay, now if for any reason it comes down to 30, you begin to clap. What are you clapping for? And let me also tell you, like you said, the only thing the central bank claimed to have been doing.
Hello? Marcel Okeke? Please, if you could unmute your phone. Hello? Chief Okeke, please, if you could unmute your system. Hello?
Okay, it's technology that is, I didn't attempt to mute it myself. So okay. I am saying that what the central bank has been doing majorly has been the issue of raising what is called the monetary policy rate. And that monetary policy rate is an indicative rate. It's a benchmark rate that tells the banks, look at the direction to go. Okay? Let me tell you that there has been a lot of unintended negative consequences on the economy just because of those the hiking of monetary policy rate from about 18% in May 2023 to 27.50% by the end of 2024. So you can see the jump, about 10%, okay? Now, the effective interest rate being charged by deposit money banks within this period has gone to something in the range of 30% to 35%, meaning that the economic agents, investors who need money from this bank, the money is no longer accessible because it's too highly priced at 30 to 35% interest rate. There are no serious business that can borrow money at those rates and be making profit or still remain profitable. Understand? So those economic agents have been crowded out by the government, and that is what has led to the treasury bill you are talking about. That people are rushing to buy treasury bills as a way of savings and investment, and that is how the government has attracted about for something $billion is being quoted through mainly foreign portfolio investment. Foreign portfolio investment, which means that these foreigners are not ready to come here to invest directly. They will rather play on those bills, you understand? And that is called hot money. It is hot money because if you check, no sooner such money arrive here, than they'll just live like that, okay? Meaning that confidence the government is claiming to have generated in the economy for investors is really not there. That is why they will not come in themselves. The environment is not conducive. So they rather trade on those bills and get whatever profit or gain they will make within a short time and just fly away. And that is why we still have the major challenge on supply of FX, you know, in the foreign exchange market, in spite of the amount or the money being flaunted by government that they have raised also billion in FX. You know, so it's not money that will provide the stability, you know, that will deal with the volatility that we have in the macro economy. So that is the challenge, and it remains the challenge. So there's nothing to celebrate, and that is why we agree with AfroInvest, you know, with their topic. Thank you.
Okay, Chief Okeke, let's talk before we take a break. Let's talk briefly about tax reforms. Now, there seems to be an agreement, general consensus now, that those tax reforms are necessary and they are urgent also. What are those aspects of the tax reforms that are concerning to you?
Well, again, as being presented or paraded by the government itself, the tax bills are good, but you know what's been going on since those bills were presented to the National Assembly. For the highest level, the highest body recognized by the Constitution, which is National Economic Commission, I think, headed by the Vice President of Nigeria, to have asked that those bills be withdrawn from the National Assembly for further stakeholder engagement. That is an unprecedented measure. And yet, the government stopped to his gun and said no. For the Nigeria Governors Forum to have taken a similar stand and advised that those bills be withdrawn, you know, from the National Assembly for further deliberations and discussions and consultations. Okay? I mean, so I will not claim to understand the nitty-gritty of those bills more than these people. And yet, the government remained headstrong and said that those bills must come out as act. You understand? So it's a serious issue. Now that those bills are moving on and the governors, you know, have kind of retracted and said, okay, it's a political decision. And let me also tell you that that has been the problem, the challenge of this economy, political decision, political ascendancy. You know, so political consideration, the government said, okay, well, we have now retracted, let it be this, let it be that. So at the end of the day, you know, political expediency is high over and above economic reality. So that is what you are seeing. So at the end of the day, what will come out, you know, will be a question of you eat, whether you like it or not. I don't know how it's going to play out. But what I said earlier on, that the challenge of the Nigerian tax system is not necessarily the rates and all that, but it's the issue of human being, the administration, tax administration in Nigeria. There are a lot of gaps, there are a lot of leakages, okay? These bills, one or two of these bills are said to be intended to take care of these gaps and leakages. And so we hope so. So those are my areas of interest. If we spread the dragnet and then take care of the leakages, you know, then I mean, everybody will start to benefit, okay? It's not a question of new rates, higher rates and all that. At the end of the day, if you look at them, we are not seeing higher rates and all that. So, but the emphasis should be on plugging the gap, the leakages, and the human beings who are going to implement them. You are not going to import angels or angels from the sky. It's the same people. And so at the end of the day, we don't know what will happen, whether it will mess up or not. So, okay. But let's just...
Okay, Chief Okeke, we need to take a break, but before we do so, if we could just comment briefly on the telecom tariffs hike leading to the threat by the Nigeria Labour Congress to go on strike. They had threatened before, government called them to a meeting, and now they're saying definitely by March 1, there will be strike action. And then quickly, these charges by the CBN, that if you withdraw money from another bank's ATM, you will pay. If you withdraw from malls and some other centers, you will also pay. As hard as things are.
Well, on the telecom, tariff being raised by 50%, I think there should be a middle course. 50% is so much on the high side. But as for whether there is justification, for the tariff to go up, yes, those people are operating in this economy, okay, where the cost of everything is going up. So their cost of operation, their infrastructure, their installations, all over the place, everything has gone up. The energy for them to power their systems all over the place, okay? And the insecurity all over, with all kinds of people vandalizing their facilities all over the place, So they need to survive. But the issue of the thing going up by 50%, is something that has to be reconsidered. If it goes up by 20, okay, or something around that. But 50% looks outrageous. That is my position on that. Okay. Then the issue of raised withdrawal charges by the CBN. Again, you see that is again the issue of cost. It comes to cost. If you see what the banks are incurring to sustain the activities in terms of cost, okay. If you come to energy, powering a branch of a bank, powering the ATMs you're talking about, providing security for themselves, and so on and so forth. All these things have gone up, okay? The banks don't mint money. They use money, provided by depositors to do what they're doing. So there's a limit to which they can bear some of these, costs. But let me also say that the issue of raising those things, the charges the CBN is raising, is an indictment on the CBN itself and on the banks, showing that the so-called digital channels, that the Nigerian public would have been embracing, are failing. The digital channels are failing. And that is why many people, if you check, in recent years or months, have been resorting to cash. And that is why there's this experience of cash shortages. If the digital channels have been working the way they ought to, okay, the cashless economy will not be a mere sing-song. All of us will be utilizing the digital channels, and this issue of primacy of cash all over the place will not be there, okay? But those things seem not to be working, and that's why everybody is coming back to cash, okay? And that is what is giving rise to that. Because if the digital channels are working, why will you be going to even withdraw from ATM and so like that? Or financial inclusion, meaning that so many people that will be brought into the financial sector or system, have not been brought in because of the failure of financial inclusion, activities of the banking sector. If they have achieved, the rise in percentage up to 80 or 90 they were projecting, we will not have so many people outside, the banking or who are not yet captured, who will now be clamoring for cash all over the place. So in totality, it's an indictment on the banks and the CBN itself. It also shows the rise in the cost of operation of the banks, so that they'll be recovering something at the end of the day. So that is the point I want to make regarding that for now. Thank you.
Okay. We have other, participants in the room, and we have people listening to us at home and also online. Let's take this short commercial break. And after that, we'll come back and the conversation will continue. We'll take phone calls, we'll take reactions for persons who have joined us via Zoom and other social media platforms. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Our guest is still Chief Marcel Okeke, the Chief Economist and public affairs analyst.
Imagine hosting your own radio show, starting your own podcast, or becoming a social media content creator. Here's how to start your journey to becoming a standout voice in the industry.
Sign up for the Broadcast Media Pro course at City Media Academy. Learn from experts like Shola Thompson, Husband Material, Thames Mama, Kingsley Obom Igbulem, Uche Creative Nerd, Dolapo the Diction Coach, and more.
Next session starts March 3rd, 2025. Online classes are also available. For more information, visit City Media Academy at Plot 11, Latif Jakande Road, Agedingbi, Ikeja.
Call 0810-968-8638 or visit city1051fm.com/CMA. City Media Academy. Explore the world of broadcast media.
Most of the contracts in NDDC are given out to members of National Assembly, but you don't know about it. It's okay.
When you need unbiased information, balanced analysis, reviews, and insights on the policies and programs that concern you, listen to City Talks with Ruben Abati. Be a part of it. Call 0700 1051 1051 to lend your voice on topics and help shape our country for the better.
My name is Ruben Abati. I will be your host on City Talks from noon to 1 p.m. every Saturday. Join me as we dissect major issues of public interest. You will be glad you did.
City Talks with Ruben Abati on your number one lifestyle station, City 1051. From noon to 1 p.m. every Saturday.
You are welcome from that break, and this is City Talks on City 1051 FM. I'm Ruben Abati, and today we've been discussing Nigeria's 2025 economic landscape, dissecting the budget, approval delays. Well, the budget was passed about a day ago by the National Assembly, and other issues like telecom tariff hikes, external headwinds that the Nigerian economy may face in 2025, and then new withdrawal charges imposed by the CBN. Now, you can join the conversation by calling us on 0700 1051 1051. You can send us messages at 0909 916 4403, or you connect with us on social media via at City 1051 on Zoom, Instagram, and Facebook. We're now taking calls and comments, so please dial in and let us know who you are and where you are calling from. As I said, our guest is still Chief Marcel KK, an economist, public affairs analyst, and former chief economist at Zenith Bank. Chief Okeke, thank you very much for staying with us. Hello, Chief Okeke, are you there?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm with you.
Okay, very good. So Chief Okeke would take comments, and I have a gentleman, Dayo, from Lagos, who has sent a message via WhatsApp. He says, Payo Adebanjo is paying a tribute to Payo Adebanjo. Is a patriot, a destabilized Nigerian, a brilliant mind. And, he says, in the case of this government, loyalty for this government is cash and carry. And that senators have been compromised, and that this is a government where the worst of us is ruling the best of us. Truly, there was a country. That's Dayo from Fiber. I don't know whether we have any hands up, among the persons joining us by Zoom. But if there are other comments, we'll take them in due course. Well, Chief Okeke, I know that economists like to make projections. They talk about progress as an illusion in the case of Nigeria. But is it possible?
Hello.
That the Tinubu administration will disappoint all the doomsayers and we will see real growth in 2025. And Nigerians will have cause to say, oh, the economists like yourself were wrong. Afterwards, one hand is on the other hand that you people do. But in our conversation today, you've only been using one hand. Where is the other hand?
You don't run. No economy is run by magicians. You don't apply magic in running the economy. I am just looking at, what we have on ground. And that is why when I talked about illusion as to the progress of the economy, I had to use the economic indicators, to trace their trajectory in the past 20 to 21 months. Okay? So now looking at where we are and the assumptions in the budget, okay? I'm not so optimistic that we have cause to celebrate at the end of 2025. When you add the local conditions, we have not talked about insecurity in the land, because there's somewhere somebody raised a question as to the causative factors when it comes to inflation. Okay, one of them is that the main cause of inflation is food inflation. Food. How is that being tackled? There's no magic the government will perform this year to raise the volume of food availability in this economy. So as long as there is this shortage, scarcity, food insecurity, for instance, inflation will remain high. Okay, so we may just be living on hope. That is why government has automatically reduced inflation from 34, above 34, almost at 5%, to say we have 15% this year. So it doesn't connect. It doesn't connect. And so the people see it as a hopeless situation where you have that kind of jump. From that 5%, you say it's now 15%. Okay? From 1,700 exchange rate, you say you are going to operate at 1,400. Okay? And so on and so forth. So that kind of situation does not give anybody any hope. Okay? And now, when you are talking about the value of money, it's an illusion. Because if somebody gives you 1,000 now, the 1,000 you have today cannot buy what 500 naira bought last year. You understand? So that's the way it is. And the government will now be saying they are now distributing trillions of naira to all the 3 tiers of government. Again, I said money is what money can buy. That's what we say in economics. How much is the trillion you are giving to the state, for instance? What? One bag of cement by 2023 was around 3,000, 4,000. As we speak now, it's about 10,000. So if you give 1 trillion to a state government, what they were able to do with 300 billion some years ago, they can no longer do anything with the 1 trillion. You understand? So why will we be expecting any magic to happen? So that at the end of the day, it's the well-being of the people we're looking at. And one of the measures of the well-being is this level of inflation, what your money can buy. Our naira has lost 2 crucial values of money. You understand? Which is one, the standard for deferred payment. The standard for deferred payment. And as a store of value. No, people don't want to store their value, the value of the assets in naira. Okay? So that is why you have the issue of people going to dollar, pandering to dollar always, in spite of the policies the government or the central bank is coming up with. What happens behind the scene is another thing entirely, because naira is not durable. It's not a durable currency. If you put your money in naira, by tomorrow you'll be getting just 1/10 of what you kept aside, and so on and so forth. So I don't want to have 2 hands in this one. I have only 1 hand. And is that 1 hand I've told you what it looks like? Thank you.
Okay, Chivo Keke, we have someone else here, Ayo from Ogba. He says, my condolences to the family of Pa Ayo Adebanjo. And then he asked, what can we do to revive this economy? If you could just respond to that very briefly.
What we can do to revive this economy it's not something that can be done in one day, because it's not take one day for us to get where we are. For instance, let me pick one thing. The major challenge of this crop was the removal of fuel subsidy. You understand? And so when it was removed, did the government expedite action in terms of local refining and our sourcing PMS, for example, locally here? No. The government went ahead issuing licenses to people to be importing. And at a point, we were living on almost 100% of imported PMS. You understand? So if the government now seriously, in a focused manner, localize refining, and we detach ourselves 100% from importation of PMS and other products, for example, that will go a long way, because a huge chunk of the forex demand in the foreign exchange market is from this pressure for the importation of those refined products. So once that one is taken care of by these things being localized here, that will go a long way in dragging up the economy. And then I talked about the issue of agriculture. As soon as many farmers are able to go back to their farms, meaning the insecurity situation improves, okay, and they begin to produce, especially from the food basket of this country, we know the location, things will begin to improve, and then we have food supply. Even the one the government said they were going to import food from outside, 1 year on, almost 1 year on, since that pronouncement was made, where are we? Okay, so government should be serious with its policies and see those policies through, rather than policy somersaults and so on and so forth. That's how we see the economy coming back, you know. That's how to leapfrog it. Thank you.
Okay, we'll just take a call from the studio. If there is a caller on the line, can we quickly have that caller as we begin to wrap up now? Hello? Is there someone on the line at the studio?
Hello.
Your name, your location, and then please keep it brief.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Ruben Abati. You have to take a point from Kenya, and I greet your guest. Actually, I've said a lot of things, but, you know, my comment first of all is, can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you.
Hello.
Yes, and I'm sure our guest is hearing you.
First of all, you know, about the loan, the loan repayment, 14 trillion, if you look at it with the new total capital budget now, at least that's about 23-24% to service loan alone. That's one. And the government still wants to fund this budget with about $15 billion borrowing, maybe between $13 and $15 billion borrowing, which he has already spoken about. All of that is putting Nigeria in deeper mess, and that is the truth for anybody who is knowledgeable economically and financially. You see, but my worry again is, just like you have said, is about the external factors. You know, the United States has stopped aid to Nigeria, talking about the health, whatever. What is Nigeria doing? And what impact that is going to have? Now, Rubadi is starting a new war with Canada now. You know, all those people are donor agencies and what have you. What impact is that still going to have? Again, Nigeria still want to be a member of, BRICS, observing member of BRICS. What impact is that going to have? Again, 2020, G20, Nigeria is lobbying South Africa to have them on board. All of this, if you look at the kind of war that is going on, you can see that the future is so bleak economically. And finally, this is the year preceding the election year. Because 2025 budget is still going to be rolled over into 2026, maybe half of 2020, given the tradition and the usual practice in Nigeria. So I want to ask Chief, what does he think Nigeria would be, or a Nigeria would be like, in terms of service delivery for this government? Because 2026 is the year before the election. In another 6 months to that time, the 2027 election will be holding. Does he think this government would have, bring about or brought about a positive impact in the lives of people that can make people say, okay, I want to vote you back? Thank you.
Well, so many questions rolled into that. Well, Chief Okeke, quickly, as we begin to wrap up now.
Yeah, you have said it about it. So many questions rolled into one. But I must also acknowledge the fact that he's able to recognize, those external factors that are likely to impact on us. Both some of them that we on our own, triggered, and some of them, that will come onto us, and that's what we can do about them. So all that put together, and then internally, you've already started hearing the drums, being beat all over the place for 2027, and that's why I said the issue of political consideration, overriding economic decisions, and all that. That appears to be what is playing out. We're in 2025, but all over the place, you are hearing about 2027. Okay, as if 2027 is next month. So you can now see that it's political issues, political calculations, that are taking the decisions about the economy. And so that leads us to nowhere. I'm really afraid. And that is my position. The issue of political consideration, especially the issue of 2027, affecting economic decisions, is something that will take us to nowhere. I want to stop there, Ruben.
Well, on that note, I would like to thank you very much, Chief Marcel Okeke, for your time, for your insights, and for joining us. But before we sign off on today's program, I would like to wish our producer, the producer of City Talks, Kasmi Uzurebo, a very happy birthday. We started on a sad note with the passing of Pa Adebanjo. Let us end this program on a note of celebration as we celebrate the resourcefulness, the dedication, the expertise of the producer of this program, Kasmi Uzurebo, who is always, on top of the situation, preparing the production and making sure that, the program goes through seamlessly. Happy birthday, Kasmi, and thank you for all you do. And that's all we have today on today's edition of City Talks with Ruben Abati. We have looked at the 2025 budget shaky foundation, rising taxes, increased telecom tariffs, and new banking charges, all pointing to tougher days ahead for Nigerians. However, sound economic policies, transparency in governance, and a commitment to people-centered policies can change the direction of things. We remain committed to bringing these conversations to the forefront on this program. To our listeners, thank you for joining us. Let's keep this conversation going on our social media platforms. Thank you to all the persons who called in and sent in comments. Thank you so much. The conversation continues online. You can reach me on Instagram at Abati1990, and you can follow City1051 on all social media platforms. For those of you who tuned in late, you can watch the full show on YouTube page City1051. And don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments when you do so. And don't forget also to join us next week at 12 noon for another edition of City Talks. I'm Ruben Abati, and the show was produced by Kasmi Uzurebo, Oluwaseun Adetitun, Festus Odemero, Oluwatobiloba Samson, and Abiodun Odunton. The executive producer is Adedoja Allen. Until next time, stay informed, stay safe, and thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Most of the contracts in